Hey there guys, it's Medro, and today we're taking a look at the Legion Beta LFR Wing 1 of the Emerald Nightmare Raid. The Clutch of Corruption is where I seem to have zoned into. Now this kind of just got put live on a whim. It didn't seem to have much planning ahead of it. All of a sudden it was there. I was just actually looking to see what I could find a group for, and the LFR logo was there. And actually I completed the entirety of it before they even posted the feedback thread. So we're going to take a quick look at it. To be 100% honest, guys, I did not learn very much from this, and we're going to talk about that that same fact a little bit in this video. But yeah, so the first bit of trash here, these guys are little slimes, and they try to they try to do that. So you just stop them from doing that by interrupting their cast. It prevents a bunch of AoE damage. I've already seen people in the feedback thread saying, the trash is overtuned. It does a bit too much damage for LFR. But you could just interrupt it, so it doesn't actually do any damage at all. But yeah, anyway, so the first boss is actually pretty interesting. It's like a dead dragon. You know, it really reminds me of, the big dead dragons in Dark Souls 1, actually, is what it reminds me of. It's a pretty cool concept. I like the way it looks. But yeah, the whole thing about this Emerald Nightmare Raid is that we're basically in this alternate plane. Now, I'm not a lore junkie. Maybe you guys know more about this than I, but we do have the potential to travel to Ungoro Crater. It was Mulgore, and I think Grizzly Hills. We can travel to those 3 locations, and there are actually bosses in those 3 locations, as well as trash. We're going to see 2 out of the 3 in this wing. There's a 3-boss wing in store for you guys in this video, and the bosses themselves are extremely face roll, so we'll talk about that. The goals I want to get off today on this video here is, of course, talk about the raid itself, which is a very cool raid. Then talk about some kind of meta topics within the LFR scene, mostly about why it's useless. All right, but yeah, we'll get into that after we pull a boss. So kind of like, as you see there, just a corrupt, just a putrid. I mean, you could even see like dirt coming off it on the side. It looks pretty cool, actually. I would say that's a pretty cool looking dragon. Hopefully you guys would agree. Not as cool as Anjay Kopitar, man. That dude slides around the ice like a monster, but it's a cool looking dragon, man. No ways around it. But yeah, so I think the main mechanic here for the tank perspective, if you guys can't tell on Brewmaster, is to there's like this debuff that explodes and hits everybody. So the other bear was like, I'm a bear, you run, me tank. So I did that, and when I got this debuff, but I think I missed it the first time or something. But that's kind of going hand in hand with what I wanted to talk about today, guys. Is I didn't need to know shit. Now, of course, I'm the tank. I think it's always really been this way for LFR. In fact, a few people do die. In fact, a good amount of people do actually die in this LFR. So, you know, me saying it's easy is, kind of unfounded, since I'm doing a role that it's borderline useless at this point. Tanking in LFR, you literally don't do anything. You just stand there and tank. And, you'll see the damage, too. That's a good part of this component for the video. You can kind of get a feel. It seems like, now what on top right now is Warlock, but in most fights it seemed like, well, I don't know, it's most fights, quote unquote, but Hunter was doing well. Warlock, Rogue, of course, Demon Hunter, Unholy DK, these things are doing very well. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, Monk has gotten a substantial buff, Monk tank especially, so I'll be making a video on that. That is something I'm actually looking forward to doing. I was going to do it today, but Sally did the 1 to 110. Unfortunately, he encountered some issues there, so yeah, he couldn't complete it, but now I'm recording the video in the interim. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the actual raid itself. Well, let's talk more about LFR's version of it. It's really a really cool raid. I have to say that without any bias at all. It's fucking awesome, honestly. Like, I'm really impressed with the concept of it. The lore behind it seems pretty cool. Like I said, I'm not huge into the story, but it does seem quite engaging. Seeing the Emerald Nightmare for the first time, I think a lot of people have wanted this all the way back to Classic. I think almost everybody remembers the kind of like leaked stills where it was like a green landscape and all this nonsense. But yeah, so we're finally here. We're finally in the Emerald Nightmare, and everything is certainly living up to plan there. So there you go. You see me run out with this thing, but it still does damage to everyone in the raid. I think it just doesn't drop those puddles next to people. But anyway, back to the LFR discussion. So, when you have a raid this cool, everybody wants to see it. So I recognize that. I recognize, everybody wants to see it. And if they don't get to see it, then it's kind of cheapened Blizzard's time while making it. But it's kind of developed, like, I posted in the thread about the actual LFR. It was like, people are saying, like, oh, I said basically this is just ridiculously short. It took me less than 20 minutes. As you can tell, 18-minute video. I cut a bit of things out. Some trash I cut out, but otherwise, I don't really cut much out. I cut probably about 5 minutes out max. So it took us like 26 minutes to do this entire wing. And it was done at the item level you're meant to be tested at, right? So none of us overgear this by an inch, right? We're tested at, I think it was 825. It drops 835, guys, okay? So what we're talking about here right now is the rapid irrelevance of this difficulty. And, I'm not somebody who holds my tongue. I said that on the actual thread reporting for feedback on the wing. I know that's not really what it's for, so people were not pleased to hear that opinion there. It's more for like, oh, this boss's mechanic didn't work, or something like that. Instead, I said the entirety of a LFR wing in general was a great disappointment to me. It did 25 minutes of my day, and it was just ridiculous. I mean, it takes me longer to do dungeons, guys. You see me upload these videos that are that long, and I cut stuff out of those, some of them. Like Mythics especially. So for reference, 835 from LFR and 840 from Mythic 5-mans. It's a 5-man. I don't give a shit who you are. Sure, you can't queue for it, but it's more difficult. It's got 5 fucking people in it. Are you kidding me? You can solo it. You know what I mean? Like, you can't solo LFR, right? It's got 25 people in it. Everybody has to be there. And no matter how much you outgear one or the other, having 5 people is obviously easier to deal with. So I just don't really see the point. And I said that. I said, it was extremely fast. It didn't even feel like a raid to me. It felt like a glorified dungeon with 25 people. If it wasn't taking place in such an awesome theme, it would have been just an utter joke, a big disappointment. And it drops 835 gear. It's like, what are you after here? What are you actually after? So, I made the fabled claim by saying, well, maybe it's time to consider retiring LFR. And that did not sit well with people. But the reason I said it was because it's just doing a disservice to the community at this point. Like, it's so irrelevant. It's so irrelevant that you're getting item levels 5 item levels lower than a 5-man dungeon. But, people are like, oh, it's best in slot gear for queuable content. It's like, dude, who says that, man? It's a fucking video game. I said this in the last video I made, guys. We're human beings. Do you know what we've overcome as a species? If you are thinking about the game in those terms, it's like, well, I only play the game that I can queue for. I'm not going to do LFR. I'm only going to do LFR. I'm not going to do normal. I have to find a group for that. Ugh, other humans. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? You're paying to play this game. You should want to get your money's worth. So I just don't understand. I don't understand why LFR is in the game at this point. I could at least understand heroic 5-mans because it's good to have something to queue to. If you don't have time, if for some reason there's no people for a Mythic 5-man, or you're already locked to it, right? That's the big difference. Mythic 5-mans, you can only do once a week. You can only let loot from one boss per week. You can do them 100 times, but once you do a single boss, you cannot get loot from it again unless you use a bonus roll. But in LFR, it's not that way. It's the same way as raids. You can only do it once a week. So I don't see the point. I really don't. And I said that. I was like, if my solution, okay, is to just make normal easier. It doesn't have to be this easy. Even I feel like this difficulty is a complete fucking joke, by the way. We'll leave that on the table because that's not something. Hopefully that's tuning. Like, it's just a joke. It really is. As you see, it's just absurd how easy these 3 fights are. And very quick, too, minus this one. This one's actually kind of long. Basically summons ads, and you have to bring the ads to the boss. When the ads die, they deal damage to the boss. The boss takes 99% reduction in damage, the main part of the boss there. And when you deal damage to him, it does almost nothing. But when you kill the ads, they explode for their health onto the mob. So It's kind of like Gore Fiend. If you guys did Gore Fiend, if you didn't, go do it. It's a cool fight. Very cool fight, but yeah, obviously not very complicated mechanic. I assume it will be very more complicated in higher difficulties, though. But yeah, so the big complaint I have, obviously, is just where this fits in. It feels irrelevant. They added the tier gear back, which I think further like bastardizes the concept of LFR. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me. It's kind of like it's in between. It feels very soulless. It feels very hollow to me. I said this in the thread as well. Like the whole idea of LFR, I was really hyped for it, guys. When they announced it in Wrath, it got delayed all the way to Kata at the end of Kata as well. I was really disappointed. I was really hoping to see it in the 4.2 patch, which was Firelands. I really wanted to do Firelands LFR because I thought it was what I wanted. I thought it was like a way to do raids with less commitment, but still, still retain some of the difficulty. And boy, was I fucking wrong. In Cataclysm, at least, it was a little bit different. Even Mob, I think Mob LFR was a real testament to it. In fact, if you guys have really been paying attention, probably only a few of you out there, really been paying attention, we actually did Jinrock LFR with a full guild group where we wiped 10 times in order to get the 10% buff to kill him as fast as possible. And even that took a minute. Took a minute and like 12 seconds. That first fucking boss took like a minute and a half. You know what I mean? First boss in this raid here, this video you're watching. So LFR has just really devolved over the years, and it really feels like it's got an identity crisis. It's like, we're raiding, but we give really fucking shitty gear that is literally worse than 5-man's. That's the truth this time. It was the truth last expansion, but they added the 5-man's later, so it kind of felt like, maybe they're just doing this to keep them relevant. But now it's a fact, okay, guys? 5-mans can give gear that is objectively better than LFR gear. People are going to be like, but it gives trinkets. But it gives the tier set bonus. The tier set bonus is really good. Well, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm all about item level. Obviously, tier set bonus you're going to get from fucking normal, man. I don't know what game you're playing that you're worried about tier set bonus, maybe other than the first week and a half. But yeah, so that's kind of my take on LFR. I hopefully you guys don't like vehemently disagree with me so much so that you want to kill me, because there was a few people who felt that way. There's a few people who were like, don't ruin my fun, basically. And it's like, yeah, I understand. Everybody plays the game the way I want to play it, and it's good that Blizzard supports that. I definitely agree, but I just think you would have more fun if you did normal. Honestly, I really believe that. I wholesomely believe that. And I know people, there's a lot of people out there who like, They feel like they don't have time to do normal, okay? But I'm going to tell you this right now. Normal takes no time. It takes longer to start the group and get there than it does to complete the bosses. They're just as easy as they are in LFR when you're appropriately, like, when you're scaled up. Like, if everything was tested at the item level it was supposed to be tested at, like on the beta here, it would be the same. It would be the same difficulty. You would do as, equatable damage, and the bosses would last probably just as long. Especially in Hellfire Citadel, they nerfed normal to make it even more like LFR. I don't know, I guess to try to get more people to do it. But guess fucking what? Nobody did it, man. I just don't understand. I don't understand why you're playing if you don't want to challenge yourself even a little bit. You say, I'm not going to do Mythic 5-mans. I'm not going to do normal raiding because I can't queue for it. You know what I mean? Just take a moment and think about that, okay? Because it's really exemplary of what is wrong with this video game. It really is. And it's kind of sad. People say the game's too casual. People say the game is not casual enough. I mean, I don't know. It's so back and forth with this community where you cannot win. You can't get one side or the other. There's no victories there. And this kind of, the line kind of gets blurred when they do things like Titanforging, right? So we're going to talk about that now. So somebody, when we were in here, it didn't happen on film. Afterwards, somebody like linked it in trade. An 890 item level helm, guys. Right, from LFR, it said raid, looking for raid Titanforged. Think about those two fucking words, those two statements next to each other. It makes me want to kill you. Not even me. I don't even want to kill myself. I want to kill you. That's how back assward that is. Do you understand? I don't know. I don't know why Titanforged is an LFR. So let's talk about that. Titanforged basically is a concept where it's extension on Warforged. Warforged goes up a certain amount of item levels. I think it's always 5 now. It used to be 6, used to be 8, depending on the tier. But now I think it's always 5, or maybe even 10 in some difficulties. But either way, Titanforge can extend well beyond that. So I've seen, as that person just linked, a 890. The gear's originally 835, so 90 minus 35 is 162. So it can go all the way up 162 item levels, which is really a high number. And if you extend that, you know, to even higher item level pieces, then you can get really close to 1K item level gear. So what I was assuming, and we actually talked about this today on the 1 to 110 that Siler did. I assumed, made an assumption that Titanforged, the name of it, was only from 5-mans. And I assume that because it makes me feel like 5-mans are relevant 100% of the time, which I think would work very well. I think that would be what they should do. Then I come in here and I find out that you can do it in LFR as well. You can get Titanforged. So then it makes me think immediately, fuck, all gear can be Titanforged, meaning raids as well. And I made a thread on this, and people immediately spot the issue. Can you spot the issue? Go ahead, I'll give you a minute. Did you get it? Yeah, you fucking got it. Titanforged trinkets are going to break the fucking game, guys. Take a look through the trinkets in Legion, and you will see that they are even better than the trinkets in WoD and MoP as well. They are insane. So imagine getting a 60 item level higher trinket than you're meant to have. Guess what, guys? You now out fucking geared the content that you are progressing in. That is fucking absurd. It's stupid. It's bad design. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to even sugarcoat that. That's stupid. There's no way that should happen. But I guess I could see why it's an LFR. So now we'll play devil's advocate and say that it's only an LFR and not in anything higher than that. So if that's the case, then now you have a very reasonable idea about LFR's priority. It is bad content for most people, but it gives them a chance to wear adequate gear. I mean, 890 is essentially mythic item level. So that priest who did LFR and got an 890 helm, he now has a better helm than me, who was a guild leader, progressing through heroic and then mythic raids, which I'm fine with, completely fine with, by the way. Not saying otherwise. Okay, I really enjoy the idea of this Titanforged thing, but it has to be in non-progression difficulties. It basically, to me, it has to make it so, you know, 5-man item level is 840 mythic, say, right? Then it can Titanforge up to raid item level, and that's what we want. I think that's the purpose of it. So anyway, we're coming to a close here, guys. The 5-man concept is fun, but the raid concept is even cooler in Legion. I'm really excited for it. So if you guys have any questions about Emerald Nightmare, let me know. I learned very little about it, but there was some very great aesthetic, some very cool even encounter things that we see in this video. I don't have a lot to talk about. I didn't learn the fights, but I did learn a few valuable lessons about my my perspective going forward, and hopefully you guys will agree with that. So thanks for watching. As always, make sure you stay tuned to One Legion. We do a lot of cool stuff like this, and of course Siler's probably going to try to do another 1 to 110 at some point if you guys are watching this the day it's uploaded. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the upcoming expansion. It certainly looks cool.